Hey, I just replaced the wood in this 1954 bed. I figured there was only 8 boards to put in, so this must be an easy task. And I was wrong. So this is going to be some things I learned. Maybe they can help you out when you do yours. Before you take your old boards out, just go ahead and mark them 1 through 8. That'll make it easier to keep track of where things go back in. You can use the holes in the old wood as a template that tells you where you need to drill your new wood. Your outside boards, number 1 and 8, are going to get these 4-inch carriage bolts right here and right here, and they go down into your frame and they go through your support sills. On the other end of boards 2 and 7, if I can walk around here and show you, there's a carriage bolt right here. It's 10 inches and it goes all the way through your frame as well as your support sills. Overall, you have 3 of these cross supports, these sills. It's easier to see with the fender taken off. You have one right here, you have one right there, and you have one that you can't see from here. And just to make it easier, I went ahead and taped where those are at with the blue tape. One running this way, one running here, one running there. And you'll notice up towards the front of these how there are 2 holes for each of the metal slats, so make sure you get those pointing in the right direction. If you're like me and you're starting this project 9 months after you've had a pile of sills sitting in the corner, you can notice that your frame starts out wide and it gets narrower as it goes to the front. And so the sills have little metal clips on the bottoms of those, and just make sure that those go from wide to narrow. You want to isolate your sills off the frame using some thick rubber. I just went ahead and used a sidewall of a tire with a hole running through it. So those carriage bolts actually go through that hole and then into the frame. As you start installing the boards, start from the outsides and work your way to the middle. This will give you the chance to stand in the middle of this frame while you're screwing these boards together. That makes it a little bit easier. As you're assembling this, you kind of want to keep all your bolts just hand tight, because you may need to slide some boards back and forth as you start fitting them into the middle. One of the points I wanted to make about these carriage bolts is they should set inside of these metal slats. So as you're sliding some cargo over the top of it, it doesn't get all caught up. Plus, if you look at the bottom of the carriage bolt, there's a square piece to it before it gets to the threads. There's a square punch in these metal slats. So it seems obvious to me that square peg, square hole. But for whatever reason, whoever did this truck before me had this sort of an arrangement. Then it went down into the slat. So when I went to undo all these screws, there was no way that the slats could hold them. So I had to grind out almost 80 bolts across this thing. And that was a time of great sorrow. One thing I did to make it easier is when I put the carriage bolt down into the slat, is I put duct tape on the top just to hold it, so that when I'm laying underneath the truck and pushing the nut up in there, it doesn't just push out the top. That tape holds it in place until you can get your nut starter from underneath side. When you're trying to get the threads and the nut together underneath side of the bed, gravity is not your friend. So I kind of found that some grease can give you a little bit of help here. You put a little bit of grease in your socket, and then you just kind of fill this up with one of your nuts here. And you put a little more grease. This is the nut that actually goes onto the bolt. And you'll have to hold your lock washers in place while you do this underneath side. So put a little more grease. Put your lock washer on there, and that'll give you the chance to put that up onto that nut. And you got a little bit of play there where it doesn't fall around on you. That saved me a lot of time. One more quick quick tip here is when you're putting on your splash apron and you're putting on your fender, keep both of those things loose until it all fits together. And again, if you're working by yourself, there's a few tricks you can do to make it easier. I cut little pieces of plastic just to hold these washers in place so that when I put my fender onto it, they don't slide backwards. I wanted these flat washers because when I first took these fenders off, they were just rusted solid to the bed. So I want a little bit of space in there. One more thing down here, I don't know if you can see this or not. That's where that rubber strip is at that separates the sill from the frame. So good luck. Hope your project turns out for you.